Why do people fall in love with you? It's not just about your looks, your charm, or even your personality. According to legendary psychologist Carl Jung, attraction is far more mysterious, rooted in hidden parts of the human psyche. The truth? People don't fall for who you really are, at least not at first. They fall for what you represent deep in their unconscious mind. And once you understand these four psychological forces, you'll never see love the same way again. Carl Jung, the pioneer of analytical psychology, uncovered that love is shaped by invisible forces, projections, archetypes, and the parts of ourselves we don't even recognize. He believed that when we're drawn to someone, it's rarely about them alone. Instead, our unconscious mind is seeking something, healing, wholeness, or even the traits we've buried within ourselves. Today, we're diving into Jung's revelations about love. You'll discover the 4 hidden reasons people fall for you, from the idealized images they project onto you, to the dark, unspoken parts of their psyche you unknowingly awaken. By the end, you'll see love not just as emotion, but as a mirror of the soul's deepest longings. Let's begin. Reason 1, the Anima projection. Carl Jung believed that deep within every person's unconscious lies an inner counterpart to their biological sex, the Anima, the feminine aspect in men, and the animus, the masculine aspect in women. These aren't just abstract ideas. They shape who we're drawn to in powerful, often invisible ways. When you meet someone who embodies qualities you've unconsciously associated with your anima or animus, something fascinating happens. You don't just see them. You see a reflection of your own soul's missing half. A man raised in a strict, emotionally distant household might fall for a woman who radiates warmth and nurturing energy, not just because of who she is, but because she represents a tenderness he's been deprived of. Similarly, a woman who's been taught to suppress her assertiveness might be magnetized to a bold, decisive partner, not realizing she's drawn to the voice she hasn't yet claimed for herself. This is why Jung famously said, "We don't fall in love with a real person, but with our own unconscious ideal." The person you're infatuated with becomes a canvas for your deepest longings, the qualities you admire, envy, or feel disconnected from within yourself. It's why love can feel so intoxicating in the beginning, yet so disorienting later. When the projection fades, you're left facing not just another human being, but the parts of yourself you've yet to acknowledge. This doesn't mean love is an illusion. It means attraction often begins as a call from within. The anima or animus projection is the psyche's way of guiding us toward wholeness. But unless we recognize it, we risk chasing a fantasy instead of building a real connection. The question isn't just do I love them, but what in me is seeking love through them? Reason 2, the shadow attraction. Beneath the surface of our carefully constructed personalities lies what Jung called the shadow, the hidden, often rejected parts of ourselves that we've learned to deny, suppress, or even despise. These might be traits society discouraged in us, qualities our family shamed, or impulses we buried out of fear. But here's the paradox. The more we try to ignore these aspects, the more they influence us, especially in love. This is why we're often magnetically drawn to people who embody what we disown in ourselves. The quiet, rule-following introvert finds themselves enthralled by someone rebellious and spontaneous. The overly responsible workaholic falls for a free spirit who lives entirely in the moment. On the surface, it looks like opposites attract. But Jung would argue it's far deeper. We crave in others what we've exiled within ourselves. That attraction isn't random. It's the psyche's attempt to reclaim its missing pieces. But there's a warning here. Shadow attraction creates relationships that feel electric, even fated, because they're charged with unconscious tension. The problem? If we don't recognize this dynamic, the relationship becomes a roller coaster of projection and conflict. We might idolize our partner's boldness at first, only to later resent it when it clashes with our need for security. Or we might love how they express emotions freely until their intensity triggers our own repressed feelings, making us pull away. Jung's insight reveals a hidden task in these relationships. They're mirrors, not escapes. The shadow doesn't go away just because someone else carries it for us. In fact, the more we're drawn to a trait in another, the more we're being called to acknowledge and integrate it within ourselves. The healthiest relationships don't just revolve around attraction. They help us become whole. So if you've ever been inexplicably drawn to someone who feels like you're opposite, Ask yourself, what part of me is yearning to come out of hiding? The answer might change how you love and how you see yourself. Reason 3, the collective unconscious and archetypes. Beyond our personal experiences, Jung proposed that we all share a deeper layer of the psyche, what he called collective unconscious. This is a reservoir of universal human experiences, symbols, and instincts that transcend culture or individual upbringing. And within this collective unconscious live archetypes, timeless, primal patterns that shape how we perceive love, relationships, and even the roles we assign to others. These archetypes explain why we're instinctively drawn to certain types of people, not because of who they truly are, but because they resonate with these ancient, symbolic roles. The hero who sweeps in to save us, the nurturer who offers unconditional comfort, the sage who seems to hold all the answers. When we meet someone who embodies one of these archetypes powerfully enough, it triggers something profound within us, a sense of recognition, as if we've known them forever. This is why fairy tales and myths across cultures repeat the same romantic patterns. The prince rescuing the princess, the muse inspiring the artist, the wounded healer finding redemption through love. These stories endure because they tap into the archetypes already living in our collective unconscious. But here's the catch. Archetypal attraction can blind us to reality. When we see someone as a one who'll complete us, we're often projecting an archetype onto them, not seeing the full, flawed human being in front of us. This is why so many passionate love stories eventually crumble. No person can sustainably embody an archetype forever. The key is to appreciate the archetypal resonance while remembering that true love requires seeing and loving the real person beneath the symbol. Jung's wisdom here is both poetic and practical. These archetypes aren't just fantasies, they're guides. They point us toward the qualities we value most, the lessons our souls are ready to learn. But lasting love begins when we stop expecting our partner to play a mythological role and instead embrace them as a fellow traveler. Equally human, equally growing. So the next time you feel that electrifying, I've found my missing piece sensation, pause and ask, am I falling for a person or for the story they represent? The answer could be the difference between a fleeting fantasy and a love that deepens with time. Reason 4, psychological wholeness. At its core, Jungian psychology teaches that love is far more than an emotion. It's a sacred encounter with our own unfinished self. Jung proposed that we are unconsciously drawn to partners who reflect the fragmented, unintegrated parts of our psyche. This isn't about finding someone perfect, but rather someone whose presence activates our deepest growth. When the rational thinker falls for a passionate artist, or when the free-spirited wanderer bonds with grounded homebody, these attractions aren't accidental. They're the soul's intuitive navigation toward wholeness. This phenomenon explains why we often experience love as both blissful and unsettling. The qualities we admire most in our partner frequently highlight what we've neglected in ourselves. A chronically anxious person might be drawn to someone remarkably calm, not just for comfort, but because their presence subconsciously teaches. This is what peace feels like, and it's available to you too. Similarly, someone who struggles with self-expression might find themselves captivated by a partner who speaks with unfiltered honesty. These relationships serve as living invitations to reclaim our disowned potentials. Jung's crucial insight here is that love doesn't complete us. It reveals where we're incomplete. His famous assertion that love exposes what your soul is trying to heal suggests that our strongest attractions are actually maps to our psychological and spiritual development. The traits we idealize in others are often the very qualities we've been too afraid or unprepared to cultivate within. This understanding transforms how we approach relationships. Rather than seeking someone to fix us or make us whole, we begin to see partnerships as sacred mirrors, opportunities to recognize and integrate our latent capacities. The healthiest love doesn't foster dependency, but mutual awakening. So when you find yourself irresistibly drawn to someone, instead of asking, what can they give me? Try asking, what does this attraction teach me about myself? The answer may lead you not just to deeper relationships, but to your most authentic self. Ultimately, Jung reminds us that every great love story is actually two stories, the visible bond between two people and the invisible journey each must take toward their own wholeness. The most enduring loves are those where both partners honor this dual path, where the relationship becomes not an escape from oneself, but a courageous return. So what does this mean for you and your relationships? Jung's wisdom invites us to pause and ask the most revealing question of all. Is my love based on projection or true connection? Are you seeing your partner clearly, or through the lens of your own unmet needs, unconscious ideals, and unhealed wounds? This isn't about doubting your feelings, but about deepening them, transforming attraction from something that happens to you into something you can engage with consciously. The key to building authentic love is self-awareness. When you recognize that your strongest attractions are often mirrors of your inner world, you gain the power to choose. Will you repeat old patterns, or will you use relationships as a path to growth? Start by reflecting on your past loves. What patterns do you see? Were you drawn to certain archetypes, shadows, or projections? The more you understand your own psychological landscape, the more you can show up in relationships with clarity rather than unconscious longing. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these 4 reasons resonated most deeply? Have you ever fallen for someone because they embodied your anima or animus? Did a relationship reveal hidden parts of your shadow? Or have you experienced love as a call to wholeness? Share your thoughts below. This is where the real conversation begins. To close, let's return to Jung's timeless words. The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. Love, at its best, isn't just about finding someone. It's about becoming more fully yourself through the encounter. May your relationships be not just a source of joy, but a journey toward the wholeness you seek. Thank you for watching. And remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with your own unconscious. Keep exploring,